Hello YouTube, this is CN Maritime History here, back again with another video. Today we'll be talking about the RMS Mauretania from 1938. RMS Mauretania was launched on July 28, 1938 at the Camel Laird Yard in Birkenhead, England, and was completed in May of 1939. She was one of the first ships built from the newly formed Cunard White Star Line after the merger in April 1934 of the Cunard and White Star shipping companies. Upon the withdrawal of the original RMS Mauretania in 1935, to prevent a rival company from stealing the name and to keep the name available from the new liner, arrangements were made for the red funnel steamer Queen to be renamed Mauretania in the interim. RMS Mauretania had a gross registered tonnage of 35,739 and overall length of 772 feet and a beam of 89 feet. She also had an exterior design that resembled RMS Queen Elizabeth. She was powered by two sets of Parsons single reduction geared steam turbines which powered the ship with 42,000 shaft horsepower which drove two propellers. Her service speed was 23 knots with a maximum speed of 26 knots. Mauretania sailed on her maiden voyage from Liverpool to New York on June 17, 1939, under the command of Captain Arthur Tillotson Brown. After remaining in New York for a week, she returned to Southampton via Cherbourg on Friday, June 30, 1939. Like RMS Aquitania 25 years before, Mauretania was to experience only the briefest period of commercial operation before the outbreak of hostilities halted its work for over 6 years. This would be World War II. On August 11, 1939, she left on her final pre-war voyage to New York City. On her return, she was requisitioned by the Royal Navy. Not Royal Navy, the government. But more so, yes, the Royal Navy, because she was a troop ship. Mauretania was armed with two 6-inch guns and some smaller weapons, painted in battle gray, and then dispatched to America at the end of December 1939. For 3 months, the ship lay idle in New York City, docked alongside RMS Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mary, and the SS Normandy, until it was decided for her to be a troop ship. On the 20th of March, 1940, she sailed from New York to Sydney, Australia via the Panama Canal to be converted for her new role. This conversion work was carried out in April, and in May she left Sydney as part of one of the greatest convoys ever mustered for the transport of troops. With her were Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth, and Aquitania, with 2,000 troops bound for the River Clyde via South Africa. Other notable liners in this great convoy were Empress of Britain, Empress of Canada, RMS Empress of Asia, and SS New Amsterdam. After the war's end, Mauretania made several further voyages for the government repatriating troops. This mainly took the ship to Canada and Singapore. In addition, she made at least one voyage from New Zealand via Australia and South Africa to Liverpool. Women and children were crammed into a cabin in the bunks used by the troops, while the men were in dormitories for 60 sleeping in hammocks. On that voyage, she sailed from Cape Town on September 10, 1945. She was delayed for 3 days off Liverpool by strong winds and finally docked on the 25th of September. Mauretania took the first dedicated sailing of British war brides and their children being patriated to Canada to join their husbands, landing at Pier 21 at Halifax, Nova Scotia in February 1946. On September 2, 1946, she returned to Liverpool, was released from government service, and immediately afterward went into Gladstone Dock to be reconditioned by Camel Laird & Co. for return to Cunard White Star service. After a complete overhaul and refurbishment of the interior, Mauretania made her first post-war Atlantic crossing to New York City, departing on 26 April 1947. After using Liverpool as her home port for the first 2 voyages, she was thereafter based at Southampton. Here she acted as the relief ship for Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth, therefore giving her the title, the Little Queen, standing in on the transatlantic service with when one of them was undergoing maintenance. By this time, the London to New York service had been discontinued, as Georgic, with which she had been operating the service, was in no fit state to resume passenger duties, while the other partner, Britannic, had been not to be confused with the original Britannic or HMHS Britannic. This would be Royal Mail Motor Vehicle Britannic, had been transferred to a new Liverpool to New York service. Later that year, she began to be used as a cruise ship during the winter months to the West Indies and the Caribbean. These so-called dollar-earning cruises assisted the shattered British economy. On 1948, Mauretania was used to return home the Wright brothers' historic first aircraft, 1903 Wright Flyer, where it had been on loan to the British Science Museum since 1928. During the next decade, she had served on the Southampton to New York City route and operated on cruises from New York during the winter months. When Mauretania was taken in for her annual overhaul at Liverpool in December 1957, the opportunity was taken to fit air conditioning throughout the ship. By 1962, Mauretania was facing competition from more modern ships and was beginning to lose money for Cunard Line. In October 1962, the ship was painted pale green like Caronia, also known as the famed green goddess, and the passenger accommodation was adjusted to accommodate 406 first class, 364 cabin class, and 357 tourist class passengers. On 20th of March 1963, she began a new Mediterranean service calling at New York, Cannes, Genoa, and Naples. This was a failure, and by 1964 she was mainly employed cruising from New York to the West Indies. Mauretania's final voyage was a Mediterranean cruise which left New York on September 15, 1965. It was announced that on her return to Southampton, Mauretania would be withdrawn from service and sold for scrap. She arrived at Southampton on October 10, 1965, and had already been sold to the British Iron and Steel Corporation. Leaving Southampton on November 20th for her final voyage, she arrived at Thomas W. Ward's shipbreaking yard in Inverkeithing, Fife, Scotland. She was commanded by Captain John Treasure Jones, who had been master of the ship since 1962. He navigated the mud straits of the Forth without tugboats and made the final berthing through the shallows above the mud banks on the midnight high tide. It is rumored that on the way to Fife, she sailed at the River Douglas in Lancashire by mistake and became grounded in the mud banks. But this is very unlikely, as photographs and footage of the Mauretania at Inverkeithing were taken after her arrival. Regardless, scrapping began a few weeks later. By late April 1966, her funnels were gone. By mid-1966, the superstructure was removed. Scrapping was finished by late 1966. So, I hope you have enjoyed my RMS Mauretania 1938 video. If I sounded a little tired, this is like my 5th take of this video. Something or other has gone wrong while filming it. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Have a good day, and hopefully my next video will be out relatively soon. Bye.